It's 1177, and a teenage Genghis Khan is fearing for his life. He's been captured by a rival tribe, and he's been treated horribly. He's right to fear for his life. They're probably going to kill him for the crimes he's committed. But what were those crimes? And how does Genghis survive and go on to be one of the greatest conquerors of all time? Let's find out. Genghis Khan was born on the steppes of Mongolia, an extremely remote part of the world. Far away from many major trade routes, life was about survival for his family. And into this world of scarcity, Genghis Khan was born. It's 1162, and a woman called Oilan gives birth to a baby boy. He's born holding a blood clot. It means something, they think. They're not sure what, but he's going to be significant. We'll see. But just 9 months before this, Oilan could never have imagined being in this situation. One fine day, her and her recently married husband were heading home to start their new life together, when, in the distance, they see a man on a horse. That man is Yesagay. He goes back to his brothers, tells them to get on their horses and get going. They start chasing the married couple. Oilan and her husband manage to run away and lose their attackers, but Oilan knows they've won the battle but lost the war. There's no way the two of them will be able to get away when they're against people who know the terrain so much better than they do. So she has an idea. She'll give herself up and let herself be taken. Because she knows if they manage to catch them both, they'll kill him. And she doesn't want that for him. She wants him to live his life. He resists, but she insists. She gives him her blouse as a token of remembrance. It has her scent on it, and scent is incredibly important to these people. And off she goes with Yesagay and his brothers. Where she was meant to be going with her husband was with a tribe called the Mergid, a relatively well-off tribe. But Yesagay's existence is much, much worse. Boxed in by mountains instead of nice open views. Hunting is the way of life. It doesn't always give them the food they need. That's not the only surprise she has though. She finds out he already has a wife, so she even has to fight for her place in the family. Her life has changed just like that. And so, 9 months later, she gives birth to a baby boy who's holding a blood clot. And just before the baby boy was born, Yesagay had been off fighting alongside a tribe called the Taichud. He had attached himself and his family to their fate. Towards the end, he manages to kill a warrior called Temujin and heads home in time to see this new baby boy. And they decide to call him Temujin, named after the warrior he had just killed. This is a subtle foreshadow. This is the boy that will go on to become Genghis Khan. But for now, he's called Temujin. So Oilan is getting used to this new life, a life of scarcity. And at times they do run out of food. When you're starving on the steppe, you don't sit there and starve to death. You go after somebody else's food. Most of the tribes and groups around them are bigger than they are and stronger than they are, but that doesn't matter. You take them by surprise. And the custom is that the other side runs away. They leave behind their food and valuable goods. You pick them up, take them away, and run away yourself. You're not concerned with killing the other side. And so that's what they do. They survive. But his dad isn't great at looking after him. One time he loses him completely as a child, and a man who's called the Fat Khan picked him up and looked after him until his dad came back. This Fat Khan will go on to claim that he's the reason that Genghis Khan became as big as he did. Doubtful, you've got to like the balls he has to try it. So his dad gets him back from the Fat Khan, but he's noticing that there's a bit of tension between Temujin and his older brother from his first marriage. And rather than try and settle it in some kind of diplomatic way, he decides he needs to get rid of Temujin. Not kill him, just get him out of the house. And the best way to do that, given that he is at the grand old age of 10 years old, is to marry him off. Yes, it's a bit young, but what marriage was a bit different to what it is in modern society for them. All it meant is that at this age he would go live with the bride's family, and he'd basically work for them. Oilan has a great idea. Why not go to her old tribe, the Mergid, and ask for a bride from them, which will heal some of the wounds of her being kidnapped. So off Temujin and Yesagay go on a little road trip to get him married. Along the way, they stay with various tribes and people. And in one particular place, they meet a family that Temujin really likes the daughter of. They're getting on amazingly well. And so despite Oilan's instructions to go to her old tribe, Yesagay decides that he should get married to Borta, the daughter of the family they're staying with. This, again, will have some consequences later, but we'll have to wait to see what they are. So Temujin is left behind, as agreed, to work for the family. And off Yasuge goes, his job complete. On the way home, he notices a little party that another tribe are having and decides he wants to party too. The only problem is, they are the Tartars. The warrior that he had killed towards the end of the last war was from the Tartars. They were the tribe he was against. So if they find out who he is, they'll kill him. So he decides to go to the party. Just don't tell them who you are. He has a great time, but at the end of the night, he starts to feel a bit sick. He thinks they've worked out who he is, and they've poisoned him. He jumps on his horse, rides home as quickly as he can. Gets back. Oilan sends word to Temujin, tells him to come home quickly. He races home and finds his dad has died. The direction of his life has changed completely. Not only his whole family's. Sure, they're part of the Taichud tribe, and so they stick with them. But they were only really tied to the tribe via Yasuge. But now it's the two women, the two wives, and all of their children. And none of the children are old enough to be supporting the family or the tribe. So one day the Taichud tribe starts moving away from the family, just inches away, starts walking off. But Oilan's not having that for a second. She marches off, carrying Yasuge's spirit banner. She waves it around amongst the tribe, shaming them for what they've done. And so they head back. But later that night, they sneak off and leave the family alone. They're now desperate. Being such a small group, they can be attacked by others. And finding food is even harder when there's so few of you to catch it. They're entirely reliant on hunting, but with very few hunters. But Oilan is made of strong stuff, as we'll see later in this story. She makes sure they survive no matter what. And over the years, they manage to get pretty comfortable. Comfortable enough that there's even a family they meet around a lake. And in that family, there's a boy called Jamaka. Temujin and Jamaka are best friends. They love spending time together, including doing things like ice skating. They're so close that they want to be brothers. And not only brothers, they want to be blood brothers. This means that they'll actually swallow a little bit of each other's blood. Kind of gross, but that's what they did. And that's because bodily fluids, especially blood, were sacred to the Mongols. You didn't spill the blood of a fellow tribe member. And by swallowing each other's blood like this, they were swallowing part of the soul of each other. And so there they are, the best of friends and blood brothers. They'll be there for each other forever. But eventually, his family needs to move on. And so he loses track of his best friend. All this time, his wife is still at home with her parents and he's separate. Years have gone by. But he has to help his family in their time of need. And that meant the problems he had with his older brother, Bekta, still existed. The problems that his dad had tried to stop by marrying him off. Especially now that his dad's dead, the older brother can possibly marry his mom. In fact, it's expected it will happen sooner or later. Temujin and one of his other brothers, Kasa, are out fishing one day. And they catch a fish, which is great. The family needs to find things like fish. It needs to hunt. But along comes Bekta, his older brother, takes it from them, and takes it home. They go back to Oilan and complain, but she sides with Bekta. Temujin starts to realize there are going to be problems in the future. If Bekta's going to be above him, and then effectively become his stepdad, while being his brother, the tensions are going to get worse. And this is in a highly hierarchical society. He has to do what he says. So he and Kasa come up with a plan. They sneak up on Bekta, with bows and arrows drawn. He remains calm. He tells them that he's not the true enemy. The true enemy are the Taichud, the tribe that had abandoned them. They're the ones who they're going to have to do something about sooner or later. But they don't put the bow and arrow down. And he doesn't run away. They shoot and kill him. He lies there bleeding out on the ground. So not only killing his brother, but also letting his blood touch the ground. As I've said, blood is sacred to the Mongols. Killing someone in a way that their blood seeps onto the ground is deeply disrespectful. They both go home, and Oilan curses them. Now you have no companion other than your shadow. Now he's in deep trouble. Not just with his mom, but with the Taichud too. They're a respected tribe. They feel they need to step in and police the behavior of this young man. They send warriors to capture him, but he gets away. But not for long. They take him back to their tribe. And they put something called a kang around his neck. It's something like an ox yoke. It's designed to be incredibly painful and uncomfortable for him. He has to sleep with it on. And he's passed around from family to family within the tribe. But he's a surprisingly charming young man, and despite what he's done, many of them choose to treat him nicely. They let him take the kang off while he's sleeping and feed him nice meals, that kind of thing. And one day, he's left with just one family member, a young man. He manages to knock him out and run away. But he realizes he's surrounded and he hasn't got a horse. Everyone in this society has a horse. He wouldn't be able to outrun anyone as he is. But a man whose family he'd been staying with spots him and sneaks him back to their yurt. He tells him to wait one night, and in the morning he'll give him a horse so he can get away. And that's what happens. The next morning he races off and is a free man. A man of 16 years of age. The first thing he does is go to see Borta, his wife. They haven't seen each other now for 7 years. And at 17, she's at an age that's considered to be a bit past it for a wife. So there's a chance that she's married somebody else. He arrives. The father has heard about the crimes he's committed. But Borta has been waiting for him. The father decides to forgive his crimes and releases Borta to go with Temujin. She brings with her a black sable coat, an extremely precious item on the steppe. And she intends to give it to Oylan, her now mother-in-law. But Temujin has other ideas. He thinks he can put that to good use. Being captured by the Taichud had shown how vulnerable him and his family were, especially now they were one brother down. He knows they need allies. And the first person he can think of is a man known as Ong Khan. His father Yesagade fought for Ong Khan and actually helped him become a Khan in the first place. So he knew there were some ties there and that Ong Khan would be open to it. So there he goes. He gives him the black sable coat as a gift in exchange for his protection. Ong Khan agrees and even offers him a place in his tribe. But Genghis says no thank you. He doesn't want to be under anybody else, as is shown with his brother. He's pretty determined not to do that. So he politely declines and goes off on his merry way. Amongst all of this, he gains 2 other young men who are going to stick by him, and he would have hoped for a quiet life from now on. But at exactly that moment, 18 years later, the Mergid, the tribe that Oylan had come from, came for their revenge. In all of the chaos, he manages to get away. He runs away. But Borta is captured, along with 2 other women. It's taken him 7 years to get his wife back, and almost immediately, she's gone. What will Temujin do? Watch out for the next one next week to find out.